you've ever watched a motorcycle, just slice through traffic, disappearing into the distance with that incredible speed, you get it. You get that sense of freedom.
Right.
But that same capability, that total exposure, it also means riders are, well, they're uniquely vulnerable in a world that's really just built for giant metal boxes.
That inherent vulnerability is exactly why we pulled together this source material. This isn't just about, reciting statistics.
Right.
This is a tactical deep dive. We're talking global accident data, the most common causes of collisions, the absolute non-negotiable role of gear.
And the small things.
And the small things, the practical behavioral adjustments that can literally mean the difference between life and death.
So our mission today is to synthesize all this knowledge into something actionable. A kind of blueprint for safety.
Yeah.
And this is for everyone, whether you're a dedicated rider, maybe you're thinking of becoming one, or you're just a driver who shares the road. This is critical stuff.
It is.
We're going to break down everything, from the extreme scenarios like fires and head-ons, all the way down to the little details like group riding and handling black ice.
So let's unpack that fundamental risk first. Before we even get to solutions, we have to really grasp the magnitude of the exposure.
Yeah, when you just look at the design, the difference between a car and a motorcycle is it's staggering.
Yeah.
Car drivers inside a crumple zone, you've got airbags, a safety cage.
Right.
A motorcyclist, they have none of that. No built-in passive protection. It's all about what they wear and how they ride.
That's the core issue. The lack of a chassis means any impact. It's transmitted directly to the rider's body. So the likelihood of a severe injury or worse is that's drastically higher. Yeah. And we see these secondary dangers too. One thing in the reports was that fires are actually more common on bikes after a crash.
Oh, that's interesting. Why?
Because the fuel tank and the fuel lines are so exposed, there's just no secondary barrier protecting those components.
That distinction, active protection versus passive protection, that really sets the stage for the numbers we found, and they are sobering.
They really are. Globally, motorcyclists account for about 23% of all road traffic deaths.
23%.
Which is just hugely disproportionate to how many bikes are even on the road. But the most stunning figure, the one that really needs to land, comes from the World Health Organization.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
They report that motorcyclists are 28 times more likely to die in a traffic accident than someone in a passenger car.
28 times? Wow. That's not just a number. That's the reality for anyone on two wheels.
It is.
I think you have to let that sink in. That 28x multiplier, it governs every single decision a rider has to make.
And if you look past the fatalities, the scale of injury is vast. The sources estimate that for every one motorcyclist killed, something like 30 are injured.
And we're not talking about minor scrapes.
No. We're talking about everything from severe road rash, which is basically losing huge patches of skin on pavement, to life-altering trauma, head injuries, spinal cord damage.
It's clear the consequences are more severe, but the bike itself, it presents these unique challenges even before a crash. You mentioned visibility and stability.
Absolutely. A motorcycle is inherently less stable than a car. You've got 2 contact patches on the road, that's it.
Right.
And it takes very little. A bit of gravel, a sudden throttle move for one of those tires to lose traction. And the second that happens, the rider is fighting for control in a way a car driver never experiences.
And the visibility problem, that's a constant battle, isn't it? We all know they're smaller, but how do the sources explain why drivers don't see them?
It's a mix of their size and a really common misjudgment of their speed. Their narrow profile means they can get hidden by a car's A-pillar, a mirror, or just blend into the background. But crucially, drivers often misjudge how fast a motorcycle is coming towards them. They see a small object, and their brain registers it as being far away and slow, even when it's close and moving fast.
And that visual error is the root cause of so many accidents, especially at intersections.
Exactly.
So let's follow that thought. The geography of danger. The data is crystal clear. The single most dangerous place for a motorcyclist is an intersection.
Without a doubt. Intersections are collision zones. You have multiple drivers making split-second decisions. And the most common failure, like we just said, is a driver just not seeing the motorcycle at all.
Or they misjudge the speed.
Or they misjudge the speed and they pull out, or they turn right into the bike's path.
That sounds like the rider is totally at the mercy of someone else's attention span.
Yeah.
So what can they do? What do the sources say beyond just be careful?
It's about tactical defense. First, you have to maximize your visual footprint. Wear bright colors, high-vis gear, and always have your headlight on, even in broad daylight. But the most critical move is to reduce your speed way before you enter the intersection. That gives you braking time if someone pulls out, and it also signals to other drivers that you're being cautious.
That makes sense. Slowing down is a signal. But the risk is highest when cars are actually turning, right?
Correct. The reports point to two really dangerous turning scenarios. The first, and the most common, is the same-side collision. You're coming through an intersection, and an oncoming car turns left across your lane.
Right in front of you.
Right in front of you. They just didn't see you, or they thought they had more time than they did.
And the second one is the opposite side scenario, which sounds trickier.
It is. That's when a rider is overtaking a car, and that car suddenly makes a turn across the road, say into a driveway.
Oh, wow.
It cuts right across the motorcyclist's path. Both of these are caused by a driver assuming the space is clear when it's not. A rider just has to be constantly scanning for those turning wheels.
Okay, shifting gears to the open road. Let's talk lane dynamics. Lane splitting riding between cars. What's the danger profile there?
Lane splitting is inherently risky because it's unpredictable for other drivers. The key warning from the research is about speed. The higher the speed difference between the bike and the traffic around it,
The greater the danger.
the greater the danger. Exactly. A driver might suddenly change lanes or open a door.
Right. And what about just riding next to cars in traffic? You mentioned side swipes and cut-throughs.
Yeah, you want to spend as little time as possible riding right alongside a car, especially in their blind spot. That's the side swipe risk. A cut through is when a car pulls out from, say, a side street or a parking lot right into your path.
And they don't expect you to be going that fast.
Exactly. It leaves you with almost zero time to react. The best defense is to always maintain a safety bubble around yourself. Be proactive about moving out of blind spots.
And finally, the road itself. Curves and bad surfaces.
Yes. For bikes, these are huge multipliers for risk. In a curve, if you go in too hot, you can overshoot it.
And end up in oncoming traffic.
Or off the road, or into a barrier. And on the surface, bikes are so sensitive to any little thing. Gravel, wet leaves, potholes, any of that can cause an instant loss of traction. You have to slow way down and anticipate those spots.
Okay, since we've established that the rider has no passive protection, their gear basically becomes their safety cage. Let's start with the big one, the helmet. The statistics on this are they're a mandate. Wearing a helmet reduces the risk of death by 37%.
37%.
And it cuts the risk of a head injury by 69%. But we're not talking about just any helmet. It has to be a full-face helmet that meets real safety standards, like DOT, ECE, or SNELL.
What's the difference between those standards? Why should a rider care?
Well, they all certify different levels of impact resistance, penetration resistance, basically how well the helmet holds together in a crash.
Okay.
SNELL, for example, is incredibly stringent. They do multiple high-energy impacts on the same spot. Choosing a helmet with one of these stickers means it's been lab-tested to actually protect you. It's not just for looks. Moving down the body, the rest of the gear is about road rash and protecting your joints.
Precisely. You need abrasion-resistant materials. We're talking heavy leather or special textiles with armor built in.
Where does that armor need to be?
At all the key impact points. Shoulders, elbows, back, knees, and hips. In a slide, that fabric keeps your skin on your body, and the armor soaks up the impact to your joints.
And we can't forget hands and feet.
Never.
Yeah.
Gloves have to be full-fingered with reinforced knuckles. It's just instinct to put your hands out. And boots need to be sturdy, over the ankle to prevent twists or crush injuries. And, non-slip soles.
And on top of all that, visibility gear.
Reflective strips, bright colors. This is so important, especially if you ride at dawn, dusk, or at night. It's not a fashion choice. It's about being seen. The more light you can bounce back at a driver, the better.
Now let's talk about the machine itself. Maintenance. It's easy to overlook until something goes wrong, but on a bike, that's a huge safety issue.
It absolutely is. A mechanical failure on a motorcycle is almost always catastrophic.
So what are the top things a rider has to check? No excuses.
Tires are number one. You have to check the pressure, using what the manufacturer recommends, not the number on the tire itself, and the tread depth. Low pressure kills your handling.
Right, especially in a corner.
Exactly. In a curve, a low pressure tire can just fold or push and you're going down.
What about brakes?
Check your pad thickness, your fluid levels. If the lever feels spongy at all, the bike is not safe to ride. For chain-driven bikes, you have to check the chain tension and keep it lubed. A snap chain can lock up the rear wheel.
Wow.
And, of course, your lights, they're your voice on the road, they have to work.
Finally, let's talk about the human factor. The data points to this over and over.
The human element is huge. Speeding, inexperience, and impairment are just massive contributors. The sources noted that in the U.S. in 2020, 28% of riders killed in crashes had a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or higher.
So it tells you that even with all the best gear and a perfectly maintained bike.
The rider's decision-making is the ultimate safety feature.
Okay, let's move to adaptation. Bad weather can turn a familiar road into a death trap. How does a rider handle rain?
Rain changes everything. You need good waterproof gear and anti-fog visor, obviously, but tactically you have to use extremely smooth inputs on the throttle and the brakes. Any sudden move can cause a skid.
And what's the specific advice for braking on wet pavement?
You generally use a bit more rear brake than you might normally, and you have to watch out for the really slick spots like painted lines, manhole covers, and that oily strip right down the middle of the lane.
So you have to increase your following distance.
Exponentially, yeah.
Then there's cold weather, where the real danger is invisible.
Black ice, that's the enemy. The research is very clear here. You have to be hyper aware of bridges and shaded areas.
Why bridges specifically?
Because air flows above and below them, so they freeze much, much faster than the road. A shaded curve can hold ice for hours after the sun has melted everything else. You have to ride through those areas with zero abrupt inputs.
And wind. That can feel like you're fighting a solid wall.
Strong wind is exhausting. The technique is a little counterintuitive. You actually have to lean into the wind to stay balanced. And you have to give huge trucks and vans a ton of space.
Because of the turbulence.
Right. The wind blasts they create when they pass you can violently destabilize the bike.
Finally, let's talk about riding in a group. It's social, but it requires some serious discipline to be safe.
Coordination is everything. The first rule for groups is to always use a staggered formation.
Okay, break that down for us.
The lead rider takes the left third of the lane, the second rider takes the right third, the third goes back to the left, and so on.
And why is that so important?
It gives every rider a full view of the road ahead, and critically, it gives them an escape path. You have room to swerve without hitting the person behind you. You still need a 2-second gap to the rider directly ahead in your path, though.
Not the one diagonally in front.
No, the one directly ahead. And you switch to single file in tight curves or when visibility is bad.
The sources also stressed doing a pre-ride meeting.
Yes. Every time. You agree on the route, gas stops, hand signals, and you have to assign a lead rider and a sweep rider at the back. It gives the ride structure.
And what if the group gets separated at a red light?
The discipline has to be absolute. The lead rider finds a safe place to pull over and wait. You never ever run a red light or break traffic laws to stay together. That's how accidents happen.
And pathing.
One at a time. The rule is you pass slower vehicles one by one. You wait until you see the bike ahead of you is safely past the obstacle before you even think about making your move. So what we've really detailed today isn't just a list of risks. It's more like a roadmap for survival. Motorcycle safety is a shared responsibility. Riders have to own that 28x risk factor, be trained, be equipped, be vigilant, especially at intersections.
And for drivers, you have to be hyper-vigilant.
Yeah.
You have to check your blind spots twice, anticipate that speed misjudgment we talked about, and just give them space. The takeaway is clear. It's about continuous learning and unflinching compliance with the rules. That's how you mitigate those huge risks.
And here's a final thought for you to chew on. The sources noted that motorcyclists are often more prone to road rage.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's because they are so acutely aware of the deadly consequences of someone else's careless driving. They feel that danger so intensely. Yet at the same time, they are completely vulnerable to any retaliatory act from another driver. So what does that deep psychological conflict, being the most danger-aware person on the road while also being the most exposed, tell us about the constant mental load and stress that just comes with the act of riding?
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.